Hi folks, the Filipina P here, and guess what? Today is my 500th video, so thanks for tuning in. It's hard to believe I've been doing 2 videos a week for almost 5 years now, and I never would have guessed that so many of you would appreciate my content. And for that, I'm truly grateful. And as long as you keep watching, I'll keep making. So as you can probably tell, it's time for another candlelight video where we talk about all the unusual things you can expect to find if you visit the Philippines. And today, we got some of the weirdest stuff I've ever revealed. Now, there's so much to learn about the Philippines that I could do a video every day for the next 5 years. But let's start with something you're gonna think is truly bizarre. In the far northern mountains is the village of Buscalan, where you'll find the oldest living tattoo artist. At 108 years old, Wang Od Ogay is the last member of the Butbut tribe, and people come from all over the world to receive her ink designs. She's actually become so famous that she's also the oldest person to ever appear on the cover of Vogue magazine. But here's the strange part. Before you can get a tattoo, she likes to feel your genitals. Now, some people say she does this because it tells her what design to create, but other people say she just gets a kick out of doing it. Whatever the reason, be prepared for a very intimate examination before getting your masterpiece. I think maybe I'll start doing that before giving relationship advice because I do like to think long and hard before giving my opinion. So maybe I can use that technique for inspiration. What do you guys think? But not all introductions are quite so intrusive. When you're saying hello to a Filipino for the first time, I strongly advise you not to go right for the crotch. A smile and a nod are the way we usually greet someone when we meet for the first time. And although shaking hands is more of a Western thing, if you hold out your hand, we'll know what you mean and be happy to shake it. The thing is, we use a really weak grip, so if you're expecting a nice firm handshake, be prepared to feel like you just stuck your hand in a bowl of jello. If your grip is too hard, it can be seen as a sign of aggression, so just keep a limp wrist, even if it makes you feel weird. Another difference you might notice when you first meet someone is that we don't use humor quite the same way you do. You guys often like to break the ice by being funny, but if you tell complicated jokes or use sarcasm, we'll smile politely, but we probably won't get the punchline. So if you make an attempt at humor, keep it very basic. If you do manage to make us laugh, you might notice that we cover our mouths with our hands. It's almost always the women who do this, but you'll see the guys doing it too sometimes. But why? Well, the answer's a little complicated since it evolved from a lot of different cultures. But here's the basic reason. It's very important not to draw attention to yourself. So covering your mouth to stifle a laugh is considered polite behavior. It shows modesty and restraint and keeps you from disrupting a conversation with your laughter, which is considered rude. Now, that probably sounds strange to people who've spent time around noisy Filipinos, who often drown each other out with the volume of their voices. But like I've said before, we don't always practice what we preach. Another reason to cover our mouth is that we often have bad teeth, and it's a way of sparing everyone from seeing our cavities and crooked snaggle teeth. But if you just walk up and ask a Filipino why we do this, most of us haven't really thought about it. It's a learned behavior that's part of our culture, so we just do it automatically. And here's something else we do automatically that never fails to confuse you guys. Whether you're talking to your Filipino girlfriend or even just knocking on a stranger's door, one of the first things we're gonna say is, "Have you eaten yet?" It makes you Westerners wonder why we're so concerned with your diet, even if we don't know you yet. Do we think you look malnourished? Are we trying to get you to buy us lunch? Nope, none of the above. It's just a common form of greeting. In the case of a girlfriend, it's because food is our love language, and she's trying to show concern that you're taking care of yourself. In the case of a stranger, it's polite to immediately offer a meal because everything in the Philippines revolves around food. It can be a scarce resource, so giving you something to eat is always the first order of business. In fact, we're so obsessed with food that one of our favorite pastimes is watching other people eat. I kid you not. We call it mukbang, and it's a video where people just eat different kinds of food we wish we could eat, complete with smacking sounds and moans of pleasure. And yes, it's like food porn without the nudity. It might sound weird to you because you probably come from a place where you can eat what you want, when you want, but it's a real treat for us. I guess we watch people eat exotic food the way you guys like to watch lifestyles of the rich and famous. Unfortunately, this obsession with food comes at a cost. Filipinos eat a lot of cheap junk food, and we're currently having an obesity crisis, worse than we've ever seen before. In the last 20 years, the percentage of overweight or obese Filipinos has virtually doubled from 20% to 37%. It's still not quite as bad as in many Western countries, but we're catching up fast. One of the problems is that we like to cover everything we eat with sugar. Any of you guys who visited the Philippines have probably been surprised by how sweet the drinks are, and we even add sugar to our spaghetti. I know you guys have a mental image of Filipinos eating fresh food and living a healthy lifestyle, but the numbers don't lie. So let's hope we can get a handle on things before all we've got is love handles. Now, here's one thing that I'd advise you not to try here, and if it's offered to you, you might want to politely decline. The century egg. It's an egg that's been preserved for several months in a mixture of clay, ash, salt, and quicklime. And even though it's considered an Asian delicacy, it tastes like a ripe blue cheese and ammonia. Now, I'm sure someone out there is gonna say they're delicious, but you're never gonna hear that from me. I tried one once, and that was enough for me. So, after a lot of eating and drinking, what's the Filipino etiquette for burping and passing gas? Now, when you're not sure of local customs, the safest bet is to keep your gases to yourself. But in some cultures, it's rude to withhold them, so let me explain the way it works here. Unlike our Chinese neighbors, where it's considered a compliment to the chef to burp loudly after a meal, we Filipinos usually reserve that behavior for close friends, where it's no big deal. As far as passing gas, though, we're more like the Canadian Inuits who see it as a sign of gratitude instead of rudeness. And here's the most polite way to show your Filipina's mother how much you appreciate her cooking. Hold it. Let the gas build up and then announce it beforehand so they know you did it on purpose. Address her mother directly and say something like, "This is what I think of your food," and then let it rip. The louder the eruption, the bigger the compliment. I'm sorry, guys, I'm just teasing. I'm only kidding. Oh, please, for God's sake, don't do that. I hope no one turned off the video without hearing me say I was just joking, or they're not gonna have a girlfriend anymore. Seriously, though. Oh my gosh. It's like I said at first, unless you're with close friends, keep all your gases to yourself, okay? Now, here's something that's not so funny, and it's something a lot of you guys complain about. It's certainly not true of all Filipinos, but I've heard it over and over again, so I know it's a common problem. For all the talk about how close our families are, don't be surprised if she doesn't seem to give a damn about yours. It might even feel like, in her mind, your family doesn't exist. She might never ask much about them, and when you mention them, she shows a complete lack of interest, and that's if you're lucky. What's even worse is when she becomes really negative about you getting involved in your kids' lives or helping them financially, even when that's exactly what you're doing with her family. It's really unfair, and let me be clear that I'm not excusing it. I'm just trying to explain why it is. There's a big difference. But anytime I cover something bad about the Philippines, there's always someone who says I'm making excuses for it, which is really irritating. Anyway, the reason why a Filipino might ignore your family is because we're really clannish, and we mostly only care about our immediate clan. Family first, and that means our family first. You might be a part of the family by marriage, but that's about it. And it doesn't really extend to your clan. Remember all those interviews I did where I asked Filipinas who they owe their loyalty to, their husbands or their family? A lot of them chose their family, which just seems so wrong to me, but it's all part of the same mindset. If you're that far down on the totem pole below our parents or siblings and kids, where do you think your family ranks? They're not even on the totem pole, they're somewhere beneath it. Another reason it seems like we don't give a rip about your family is because we only concern ourselves with things that happen right in our own neighborhoods. Your family's probably in some other country, which means they don't affect our daily lives, which means they don't exist. You'd think we'd be polite enough to at least pretend we care enough to ask about them. But you'd be wrong. Now, once again, this isn't universal. But if your Filipina's always asking about how your sister's doing after her hip replacement, that's the exception, not the rule. By the way, some of you asked me about the difference between Filipino and Filipino because you've heard it spoken both ways. Filipino is the English pronunciation, and it's used more formally wherever English is spoken, like in schools or government proceedings. Filipino is the Tagalog pronunciation, and it's used informally whenever we're speaking a local dialect, even when it's not Tagalog. That seemed to be confusing to some people, so wanted to clear it up for you guys. So anyway, once you get over all the social hurdles and figure out how to relate to Filipinos, you still have a few physical hurdles to deal with. Now I've told you about the dangers of uneven pavement and how you're gonna be tripping all the time. But it's not only outdoors that you have to be careful. For some reason, we make our steps all different sizes, and whatever staircase you're on seems to be meticulously engineered to make you stumble. Some are really narrow, some are too tall, some are too steep, but they can all make you fall. Sometimes we even camouflage the stairs with intricate patterns that hide the steps completely. But the weird thing is, it doesn't seem to bother us Filipinos, only you foreigners who are used to things being uniform and consistent. So beware the stare. Another thing we do differently is the way we use our car horns. In the West, you pretty much only use them when somebody doesn't move fast enough when the light turns green or when there's imminent danger. Not so in the Philippines. We beep the horn for all kinds of things. When we're passing someone, when we're approaching a blind curve, or even when we're just pissed off. A Filipino road is often a honk fest, and it might take you a while to get used to all the noise. Another thing you need to know about our driving etiquette is something that can save your life. When you guys flash your headlights, it can mean that you're yielding the right of way, and it's safe for the other driver to go. But when we do it, it means the opposite. It means we're coming through no matter what, so get out of the way. I heard from a foreigner who narrowly avoided an accident because of that, so I thought you might like to know. But even if Filipinos are road hogs, are we bed hogs? Some of you have commented that no matter how big the bed, your Filipino partner always seems to end up occupying the majority of it, even when we're only a third your size. So what gives? Well, apparently, it's you giving up space. But it's not because we're greedy, and it's not because we require a lot of room. In fact, it's the exact opposite. We actually don't like a lot of empty space on the bed, so we tend to keep snuggling up to you, and every time you shift a little, we take up the slack. By morning, you're falling off the bed, and we're right on top of you. Some guys hate it, some guys love it, but there's no escaping the Filipina snuggle bunny. But despite all our weird traits and frustrating habits, you just gotta love us. Even when we make a big deal out of silly things like keeping track of exactly how long you've been together. You guys think in terms of years, but we keep track of weeks and months. Yep, welcome to the term monthsary. Every 30 days, your Filipina's gonna remind you of the precise duration of your relationship. And she'll be just as excited and joyful as a Western woman gets about a wedding anniversary. The bad news is, you're gonna have to remember 12 times as many dates. But we don't really get upset if you don't remember. And we sure don't expect any gifts. We already have the best gift of all, and that's you. Well, that's it for my 500th video. And here's the 500 more. And I'll be back on Friday with some exciting news. And please stay tuned for an announcement because someone is trying to impersonate me. Till next time, folks. Hold it! Let the gas build up and then announce it beforehand so they know you did it on purpose. Address your mother directly and say something like, "This is what I think of your food," and let it rip. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't make a straight face while saying the line. Oh my gosh. Okay, take 47. So folks, if you've got a minute, I'd like to warn you about an issue that just won't go away. And even though I've covered it before, a lot of people are still falling for it. There seems to be a never-ending parade of fraud accounts pretending to be me that are contacting you folks and getting you to go on WhatsApp, where they ultimately trick you into investing money in cryptocurrency or just flat out ask you for cash. I just heard from another person today who said that someone claiming to be me contacted him on Facebook. They had my same profile pic, the same emojis I often use, and they'd even been studying my writing style so they could imitate it. They said they just wanted to chat and even hinted that they were looking for a relationship and then started talking about money. And that's when the guy started getting suspicious and contacted me directly. First of all, I don't even have a WhatsApp account, and I would never contact anyone outside of YouTube or my Patreon page. The only time you'll hear from me is when I'm replying to one of your comments. If someone contacts you out of the blue, it's not me. It's a scammer. And for the benefit of everyone, I'd like to ask you a favor. If you hear from one of these despicable scammers, don't just block them. Flag their accounts so they get taken down. Even if they're not fooling you, they might be successful with the next guy. So you're doing everyone a service by putting these a-holes out of business. And that's what it is. It's a business. They make a living from stealing people's money. So let's all band together and put a stop to it. Thank you guys for listening.
Are you ready? Because it's time for a word from your captain. If you've abandoned ship in the West and you're looking for a Filipina first mate, just listen to your Captain P and you'll be shouting, "There she blows," in no time at all. There's nothing like the Philippines to put a little fire in the hole. And if you join me, crew, I'll get you there, right as rain. So subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell so you hear about any course corrections. And check out my Patreon page for exclusive vids and features. And for all you new seamen, stay off me poop deck. Don't be asking me to blow the man down. And keep your hands off me booty.